Stage 2 of the pick'ems are done, and this was a generational fumble. I got 1 point. And there's a few things I'm going to learn from this, and there's a few things I'm going to write down for next time. Firstly, okay, in this second stage, just put the favorites as 3-0. Don't put these underdogs, because these were underdog teams that I actually really liked. I ended up putting them 3-0. They just advanced. And I think there are teams that are good enough in this stage to believe in as favorites, compared to a stage 1 where the Counter-Strike is a bit lower quality, and I do think it makes sense to put some underdogs through. A team like Na'Vi, I probably should have realized, just have the overall base level of team play to succeed. I think the second thing I've got to learn is that these teams that have very good team play and tactics, but their players aren't that great, you can't believe to go through in this stage. And I think I made that mistake with like a FlyQuest. I think in stage 1, their team play and tactics could carry them through against teams that had pretty weak players. In stage 2, not really the case as much. I do think it's not so bad though, because honestly, I was never getting the points here. I was never putting FlyQuest 03. I put them to go through. I don't think I was putting MIBR 03, even though I didn't really rate them as a team. They were playing Imperial in that opening matchup, and I just went with Imperial. I didn't really rate either of these teams. It turns out MIBR were a whole lot worse than I expected. And then in the 3-0, I think I'd have got a point for Na'Vi. I think I'd have gone Aurora and Na'Vi if I went normal with it. And then in the advanced section, well, obviously I would have had Aurora. And by the way, I did not believe in Aurora. A lot of people had them 3-0. I thought they'd at least advance. I kind of gamed the system nicely there. I just didn't get the point for it, unfortunately. So, yeah, I'd have got the point for Na'Vi. I'd have got Liquid. I think I'd have got Bait and 3D Max because I put them through as my 3-0s. But then I don't think any of these other ones were gettable for me, man. I was never putting Paravision. I was never putting Imperial or Passion UA. Those were my 0-3 picks. So, whatever happened here, I was not going to be getting it. Let's go on to stage 3, though. To start with, who are the team that I think are most likely to go 3-0? I'm just saying Vitality. Low-key, and we'll talk about this when we get towards the playoffs, I think Vitality might just win this major. I really want to believe in the Furia story, but the thing that impresses me most about Vitality is they have not played at their best for the last month or two, the last few events, and they still only lose against basically the other couple of best teams in the world. Who have Vitality lost to lately? Falcons, Furia. They lost once against Mao's in Chengdu. Mao's, of course, group stage warriors. Yeah, Vitality just have such a high floor. They have the highest floor here. For Furia, I could see a world in a best of 1 where they look a bit off. For Vitality, I think it's way less likely. And I know they've had issues in the BO1s in the past, but I think this time they'll be fine. And honestly, against FaZe, as long as their togetherness looks a little better than it had previously, I think they'll have no problems there. Even if it does look a little shaky, I think they'll be fine. I know it seems like a scary opening game. I'm not all that concerned. I think they'll be all right. Who are the other pick? Furia have Na'Vi in their opening game. Again, that's one that seems scary on paper. I'm not sure it's as scary as it's made out to be, though. I actually think that because Na'Vi don't have crazy firepower, I don't think it's as scary as it could be. I'm actually a little more scared that Bait could upset Falcons, to be honest. If Falcons just come in with a slow start, which they can sometimes, because I do think Falcons are a little more reliant on their individuals compared to Furia, who I think can fall back on their cooling. I do think Kixan's a good cooler as well, don't get me wrong, but sometimes you need that Falcons like special output from like a Monacy or something. You know, that's a bit more relied upon, whereas for Furia, it's a little more spread across the team as well. The other option I think you could consider is Mao's. They are group stage gremlins, group stage demons. They have Paravision in the opening game. Again, it's kind of a scary best of 1 upset potential, but if they win, there's a decent chance they play like a Spirit in the next round. I'd back them in that one. I think the problem is, it's likely in the 2-0 game, they're going to have to go up against like a Furia or a Falcons or a Vitality. And that's where I do think Mao's might not quite have it. Overall, I am just going to go Furia. It seems like the boring pick, I know. But I do think Bait have a real chance of that upset. I'm telling you, man, these guys, they keep doing it. They keep just BO1s. They're very scary. They're a very scary team. Okay, advancing. There's some very obvious ones. Falcons are too good. I know they've had issues, at big events in the past, but it feels like we've turned that corner. Nico, oh, mate, I feel like I'm jinxing them as I say this. Nico's not going to have struggles at another major. Right, guys? Right? Do you know what? If there was a team, if you wanted to be crazy, if there was a team that you would put not going through this stage, Falcons low-key, like, would I be surprised if they crashed out and didn't make it through? Maybe not, but on paper, they should be easily far too good to make it through this stage. And this is the other thing. I think there's a clear level of difference in some of these top teams to the next lower level of teams. And I think Mal's fit right into that. They're just too good in group stages. That they have a very well-rounded set of players. And whenever the pressure's not on, they look incredible. So they're an obvious selection to advance. I think next, I'm going to go in order of likelihood. And I think I would go with, okay, Spirit have to make it. You've got Donk. I feel like Donk is going to be a demon at this event. I really do. I honestly think he's going to be incredible. I think he might be the best player significantly. I think he realizes he has to solo carry this team. And yes, they have Chopper with his bad calling and fragging. And yes, they have Zwei, who's been a bit of a liability. And yes, Tanir hasn't been great on the team. But they just have enough. Like, Donk and Shiro is such a cheat code. It really is. I want to say, I think people are sleeping on G2 big time. Sleeping on G2. Okay, I know that everyone's saying they just had that one fluke run and then they started to go on losses. Recently, they really upped their game. Okay, at Chengdu, they only lost against Vitality and Furia, two best teams in the world right now. And on their opponent's map pick, on Vitality's pick, they only lost 13-11. On Furia's pick of Overpass, they only lost 16-14. Their only issue was their map picks of Train were awful. They lost them both 13-4 and 13-5 in those series. But like the Mirage game against Vitality, I actually think they were probably the better team. Like, Vitality had to win both pistols to win that Mirage against them. They have crazy firepower on this team. That Overpass against Furia, again, I actually think they played pretty well. I was just looking back at the numbers. Furia had to win 4 clutches to win that 16-14. And also, G2 had 21 opening kills to Furia's 9. The firepower is mental on this team, I'm telling you. And I genuinely believe G2 are the biggest sleeper to win this major. I think Vitality, Furia, and Falcons are seen as the 3 favorites. Outside of them, for me, G2 is next most likely. They have clutch players. They have just so much firepower that on their peak, they could win it. I genuinely believe that. I think some people won't even have G2 going through. There's this narrative that they're just one event wonders, that now Hunter's calling has been figured out. Hunter's level has dropped, but it's still good enough for the mental fragging that this team has. Who else am I putting through? Na'Vi, again, are an obvious one. And I think these picks here are going to be very, very consistent among a lot of people. Yeah, Na'Vi, they just have such a high floor with Alexi B and Blade and their calling. It just means that, especially against a lot of these other teams here who I think have issues either in firepower or in cohesion or in team play or in calling, it means that Na'Vi, who have a very, very good level of just tactical play, and they have good individuals compared to a lot of these other teams, it's hard not to see them going through. So who else will be our last pick? Well, first, let's consider the 0-3 picks, because that will be the team we're not considering at all. I think the Mongols have to be in consideration with the stand-in situation, but they've had a bit of time with their stand-in, and I think they seem like they know how to play with their stand-in just enough that I could easily see them getting a best-of-1 win. The other obvious thing here is their opening matchup is a really scary one. It's against Imperial. The loser of that feels like they're quite likely to go 0-3, to be honest with you. And I could easily see the Mongols beating Imperial in a best-of-1, which scares me. Who else would I consider? Looking down the list, it's a pretty strong list of teams, man. Like, some of the teams that in theory are weaker here, like a Paravision, they're easily a team that can win at least a match, at this stage. I think as I look down the list, I kind of lean towards a Passion UA. Their opening matchup is against G2. I think G2, just firepower, will absolutely show Passion UA up. And I like a lot of what Passion UA do, but they just feel like the sort of team, almost like a FlyQuest from the previous stage, where there's a lot to like about them, and they look good when they play, but I just don't know if the high-end firepower is here to compete at this stage. And especially when I'm thinking about who they might face in losers matches. Like, maybe they do face a Paravision in an 0-2. Who else could they face in an 0-2? I mean, an Imperial or a Mongols, I maybe think they could win those, but Imperial and the Mongols play each other in their opening game. I think overall for me, Imperial are the team that are probably the weakest on paper, and I have to go with them. I know I got caught out by them in this previous stage, but I look at their wins, and they beat MIBR, who were pretty atrocious at this stage. They then went on to lose against Na'Vi, but they put up a fight there, to be fair. Then a win against Fnatic, and then they beat M80. And yeah, I liked M80, but if M80 were in this stage, I'd be considering them for 0-3 as well. Do you know what I mean? So, like, I think it's a very impressive run by Imperial. I don't think I can believe in them, though. I honestly think Liquid, low-key. If you were ballsy, you could put Liquid 0-3, but their players are too good, surely. Their players are too good. Team play doesn't look great. Their players have got to be too good. Maybe Pain if they come in here and have a bad event, but I think just their weird calling style with Big Uzera feels good enough. This feels like a very stacked stage, but I am going to go Passion UA. I just worry about the firepower. I don't think Fem is this crazy talented player. Hulzerk hasn't been doing too much for me, and so it kind of feels like Grim is the main firepower, and that I don't think is enough. Even though I like Grim, and I know that Hulzerk could get to a good level, I don't know if I believe in it enough. Okay, so who's the final team? I'm going to tell you who I'm between. I don't think the Mongols have a chance. I don't think Paravision are going to make it through this stage. I don't think so. I think they've done great to get to this point. They've done well under pressure. I don't think they're going to be able to do it at this stage. I think they've benefited a fair bit from other teams kind of letting the moment get to them and choking, and they should still have the 4 major rookies, man. Like, they should have those issues more than a lot of these other teams. I don't think I believe in FaZe enough. I know they went 3-0 in the previous stage. I think a lot of these other teams are dialed in. I look at all these squads up here. I think they are pretty significantly better than FaZe. And I look at some of these other teams, like a 3D Max. I could see a 3D Max being a real issue for FaZe. If they faced in a 2-2 match, I just think 3D Max could get onto some maps that could be very exciting for them. I think a bait could be a problem. I really do. And overall, I'm between 3D Max and bait. I'm going to be honest with you. Partly because I feel like there's always one team that makes like a nice run in this stage and then chokes in the playoffs. That's kind of how it feels. And it feels like we haven't got that team in here yet. 3D Max are maybe a little more limited in their maps, and I don't think they're quite as talented individually. Whereas bait, I just would not be surprised if they win their opening BO1 somehow against Falcons and then get into a good position. And again, who am I thinking they might play in a 2-2 match? If all the favorites win just based on the seeding, they end up playing against a Pain in a 2-2. Obviously, that would be a great draw, but I think that's one they would very likely win. I went through my other little matchup simulator, and I actually had 3D Max against Paravision when I just did my predictions. So if that happened, I'd probably go 3D Max because bait would be playing Spirit. But to be honest, I just think that I like bait a little more as a team just because of their individual ability. I just don't know if 3D Max are going to have the individuals to shine through. So I'm going with the bait. I know that they are quite an inexperienced team. That is a gut feel type pick, to be honest with you. But it's also partly because a lot of these other teams I don't have massive faith in. That's me locked in. Curious to see who other people have, because I think a lot of these will be similar to other people. But I really think the bait, low-key, I think I'm cooking with that one, okay? Watch him go 0-3 now. Watch him go 0-3. It's going to happen, of course. By the way, if I've predicted the Falcons curse, oh boy, that's a shame. Also, I might be sleeping on FaZe again. There's a chance. And also, if FaZe make playoffs, dude, they're going to be so hard to predict in playoffs because we know what they could do on the stage with Karrigan. It could be a lot of fun. So I kind of want them to make it selfishly. I still didn't think I saw enough in that previous stage, but I would love to be proven wrong. Thank you guys for watching. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll catch you next time.